The meeting to order. This is our June meeting for the Board of Managers. The first item is all of us are here on the Board of Management side. Approval of the agenda. I have one item that needs to be changed, and that is item 8A, B, and C. We'd like to put at the very end of the meeting. We will be going into probably closed session here, and we just figure that will be at the very end of the meeting. Consequently, kind of a good place for it to be. Then we have no business coming back after that. So that's the only change I have. Anybody else?
I'd like to add like a 7D to talk about the Minnesota watershed resolutions.
Okay, 7D, Minnesota, and that's what we got from Jan Voigt, right in the email, right? Okay. Okay.
Are there more than just the Coon Creeking?
Yes.
There was actually 4 of them. 2 of them were
Permitting reform.
permitting.
We can talk about it in that when we get to it.
All right.
Okay, so that's 7D. Any other changes to the agenda? Hearing none, I would need a motion to approve the agenda.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the agenda as revised.
Second.
Thank you. I'd like to say everybody who's in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And none opposed, so it's approved. Next, matters of public interest. Do we have anyone who would like to address the board? Mr. Cook. As he knows, please identify yourself, state your name and address for the record, limit your comments to no more than 3 minutes. We usually do not take official action on items discussed at this time, but may refer to staff for a future report. So, Mr. Cook, proceed.
Thank you, Larry Cook, 471 Bighorn Drive, Chanhassen, Minnesota. First of all, to my knowledge, I've never received any responses or comments to the items I raised at the May meeting. Secondly, I object to this meeting due to the lack of duly appointed managers as required under Minnesota Chapter 103D. I also note there are continuing violations of the open meeting law, including the conduct of the workshop that you just concluded. Other question is, I noticed there's another request for money to the preserve, questioning if there is an annual cap preserve, although they may be doing good projects, keeps coming up, and I wonder if there is or needs to be an annual cap. And that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody else? Public comment? I am not seeing anybody. Dylan? I'd also like to read this statement, and that is, for the past few meetings of the Board of Managers, Mr. Larry Cook has appeared during the public comment period and asserted our meetings are illegal and that managers Nelson and Crafton have not been lawfully appointed by the Carver and Hennepin County Commissioners. Mr. Cook filed a lawsuit in Hennepin County District Court claiming that the counties had not followed the law in appointing managers Nelson and Crafton, and he was entitled to a veteran's preference in the appointment process, and that he should have been reappointed to the board. The district contested these claims, as did Carver and Hennepin counties, and on January 29th, Judge Joseph Klein dismissed all of Mr. Cook's claims, finding that they had no legal basis. Mr. Cook has appealed this decision, but it is important to note that no court has agreed with Mr. Cook's arguments, nor in any way questioned Manager Nelson or Manager Crafton's appointments. Okay, so let's proceed to the next item, which would be the reading and approval of minutes.
President Pedersen, managers, before all of you should be a copy of minutes that legal counsel Michael Welch made edits to. He would like that introduced as his comments to the minutes.
Okay, so basically we just got them right before the meeting, and it was just for his section only, just for his presentation only. So that's all it is. It does not talk about anything else beyond just the presentation that he gave. So that would be included in the approval of these minutes.
So do you want me to?
Yes, please. What would you like us to change?
Okay, so, let's see. Hang on. For the workshop, on the first page, so other attendees is Jill Fortin, it should have been Connie,
Yes.
and Andrew Hartman is staff, so
Right.
he should have been up with staff. That was the only thing I had on the workshop. I don't know if anybody else did. And then for the regular meeting, is Andrew part of the CAC?
It's
No,
not.
okay. All right, so on page 1, he needs to be moved out of those other attendees and up into staff, and he's not CAC. On page 3, lines 53, 55, and 56, it should actually be our actual president of the CAC, not Andrew.
Should be
Hartman.
Andrew Aller. Yeah.
So 1, 2, 3, there's 3 of those.
Oh, I see that too. Yep, thank you.
And then on 4, I had line, 107. Most people wouldn't have caught this, but since I know about Ray. And line 107, Ray Archuleta's last name is spelled Archuleta. And that was it.
All righty.
So I had one thing on line 86. It says, seems like the board is seeing more and more. I think it's more and more variance requests. That's what it should have been.
Yeah, it looks like it to me too.
Looks like a typo.
Yep. Okay. Anything else? Hearing none.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes as revised.
Thank you.
A second.
Okay, thank you. Thanks. Looks like we have a second. And again, all those in favor of approving the minutes as amended, please say aye. Aye. And opposed, none. So that's our minutes for the regular meeting and the workshop. And now we are on to committee member reports. The Citizens Advisory Report. Hello, Sharon, are you with us today?
Yeah.
Okay.
I do have one clarifying question. I know we introduced about you came to our last meeting. Did you come?
Mhm.
I thought so. So we have to.
But I wasn't official.
All right, well, I'm just gonna put you down because I think
I was there.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. So I think I'll end our final. Okay. We had a really great presentation by Marilyn Thorkelson on native plants and resilient landscaping. And what she called it was gardening for life. And so I'm listening to her, I'm sitting there looking at all people, and we're all like, yeah, okay, we kind of know this stuff, sorta. I mean, you can always learn new things, but he gave us some facts, 2 things that just blew me away. So turfgrass is the largest crop in the United States. Largest crop, I mean, well, anyway, that kind of blew us away. And then the other thing she said was 8 inches of healthy soil can support 2 inches of water. So when she's all done, it was like, so basically you're saying we need a lot more native plants, bottom line. So I think sometimes, you go in and you kind of pre-set yourself of what you think that a topic is going to be. But I do think having the bottom line be, we need more native plants. So we need to get the word out about native plants, but then people who do it, we need to know they need more. So I thought that was just excellent because it felt like we could all continue to do things. So I really, really liked it. We had program updates from Liz, the annual report, the program reports. Eleanor went into detail on Creek Week, which was great. We want to have someone maintain our motions, and we're hoping that our recorder will do it. But since she wasn't at the meeting, we couldn't add that to our job without asking her. So don't say anything, but we think we're going to ask Michelle to add it to the recorder's duties to maintain that thing. So then that spreadsheet would be up to date for everyone. And then one other thing, I had not gone to the previous meeting of this, but there had been a recommendation due to just some heightened sensitivity in the world, to change our name from the Citizen Advisory Committee, because citizen sort of might imply you weren't a citizen, you couldn't do it. So there was a lot of, that came up. I wasn't involved in, maybe it was just political nature of the world and it just came up at that moment in time. So that was like 2 months ago. Some people just wanted it called the advisory committee and get rid of citizen. Some people had other options. And we all decided it'd be really confusing because there's the TAC and then you have other advisory committees. So we just decided, I think Marilyn might have been the one to put it on the agenda, and she withdrew it based on just, we didn't have a good solution. It didn't seem to bother a lot of people, but we hope to tell you that if people apply, citizenship, we don't think should be a specific criteria for being on it just because our name says that. If you're a resident, should. That was just our thought. If you want us to delve into it more, we can. But for this point, we just closed it. We just thought you should know that that was a discussion we had. And we felt it helped for clarification to keep it as citizen advisory.
I think part of it came from 9 Mile. Didn't they rename their Citizen Advisory Committee, Community Advisory?
Maybe I like I
Okay.
said, missed that first meeting. And so I only got out of the minutes, and maybe it was in there. So maybe that is.
I don't
something.
know that.
But if you choose to have us do something with that, we certainly can. And or if you want to rename us yourselves, please. And that was really it. We didn't have any particular motions. We are not going to meet in July as a group. We will meet in June, but we're taking July off. I can't
Yeah.
remember why we're doing that either. I don't think I was at that meeting, but it sounds like a good idea. Was there anything that you had for us? Any motions or any work you had that you're?
Well, we know we'll be looking forward to what you have to say about the 10-year plan, because we'll be working with you and many other groups to try to get our plan the way it really should be. So be prepared, it's coming.
And was there any more? So that was a couple meetings about the wakeboarding, and we said maybe go kayaking to kind of look at the kinds of boats or those kinds of things, or doing surveys on Lotus of the kinds of boats. Is there any more work that, because we had volunteered to this study?
President Pedersen, managers, Ms. McCotter. We have authorized at the last meeting, it was authorized. I actually need to get back to Mr. Bischoff and talk about his plan moving forward. So right now, no, but yes, I think we would definitely welcome any eyes and ears, because the reason for doing it was so that we could get going shortly after the Memorial Day weekend on it. So I will either convey to you or Chairman Aller or to Ms. Forbes directly and convey it along to the CAC.
Had a comment on that. I did a preliminary assessment because we were out on the lake, and there was 28 wake boats currently on Lotus Lake. Many of them are new, and there's a lot of empty slips yet.
28
That's
Existing right now.
resident
Resident water wake boats on the lake,
Wow.
So how did you define it as a wake boat?
because they have a certain, they've got the ballast, they've got I mean, you can
Okay.
tell a wake boat from a
Sure, I
speedboat.
mean,
If you-
I can, but I'm not sure the average person would.
I am not the average person. And Kevin was along with me, who is a water skier for life, and he's very aware of it. We agreed on every boat. We took our time. I'm not saying this is a perfect
you for that.
assessment, but it was the about how many, and I think that's what you notice when you're on there, is just the relentlessness of it.
Mhm.
And the
That
waves.
sounds rather ubiquitous.
Yeah,
Wow.
And the waves.
yes. So that's,
Yeah. Well, thanks for doing that.
Well, thank you.
okay.
And thank you, Sharon, for the report.
Mm.
And now we need to talk about board rep for the June 16th CAC meeting. Do we have a volunteer?
I'll volunteer unless anybody
Okay.
else.
Be out of town.
Okay, Tom, it's you.
I'll let Liz know I might want to come.
Okay, May Administrator Report. Terry.
Managers, I don't have anything really specific beyond what's in that report, but if you have questions, I'm happy to answer it. I was just looking up 103D, section 103D 331 advisory committee. There's nothing in there that says it would have to say citizen advisory committee. So, at any rate, for your further consideration as you do it. So yeah,
Someone did look that up too in our group too, so it wasn't felt like we weren't.
If you have a feeling about it, I think bring it to us, tell us.
It died. It
Yeah.
died feeling that we were getting too into the minutia. And so we just were like,
They don't want to overstep their bounds.
Yeah.
A comment for Minister Jeffries. Is the interweb, has anything been,
no, I have
Okay.
not gotten anywhere on that.
okay,
So, but yes, that was, I did talk to Ms. Forbes about it, but we haven't.
so we don't
access.
have a link for that,
No.
okay,
I mean, I could give it to you, but right now it'd be very vacant. And I believe
Gotcha.
the last time you wanted me to populate it with a few things so you could have something to react to.
you asked what we might want to see, so
Yeah,
that's, okay.
so I will get to that, hopefully next week.
Yes.
So just a couple of things, but how'd we come down with Fred Path on the payroll?
So we will talk about that at the end of the night. It's on the discussion items. What I'm going to recommend is that we stay with APS and that we go through a different system. And really in that, Manager DeVell had brought it up in the past where I know who's at every meeting. I can enter it into payroll. I can generate a report out of that, email that report to you quarterly or monthly or whatever, so you can review it against your records and say, yes, this matches what I have. Because we were having so much problem managers setting up their account on it and being able to get it. And even those who did set up their account, when they tried to get back into it at a later date, were unable to. And maybe that's solvable. But anyway, so it's something I want to talk about in our discussion at the end of this.
Okay.
Get the
Alright.
manager's thoughts on
Then
it.
you get it timely, you don't have to wait for us on our own time, so you can just keep up to date.
Right.
That would be me.
No, just in general, it just be,
And you had something else, Joe.
I can't remember what the ESRI, like
oh, sorry.
software for something,
It's,
obviously.
they provide the GIS, all of our
Okay, so
GIS
it's
stuff.
just the GIS?
Environmental,
Okay, that's okay. Just so I had clue what it was.
it's, yeah, just an
ESRI,
acronym.
that's, yeah. that's-
All right, I was just,
Thank you.
thank you.
Okay, any other questions on the May administrator report?
So questions, just,
Okay, hearing none, we'll move to the May staff report. Any questions on that? Okay, hearing none.
And
Yeah.
a question just I don't know if it's current or not, I did notice that the staff report, the administrator's report, we're sort of getting out of sync again. It'd be nice to get them updated. All the items are starting, some of them have been there for a long time in their current form. On the staff report,
So on the staff report, okay, yeah.
I just,
Because my items, if it's italicized, if it's new. If it's not,
okay,
it's not. So
all right, so maybe
if you look through mine, anything that's italicized was added for this report. Anything that isn't italicized, just remnants.
I just sort of figure that if it continues from month to month, it's because they're having to continue to do it every month, and that's why he's leaving. it
So
there.
the Lake Lucy violations, are those still,
The Lake Lucy violations, Lake Lucy Lane, so that one is they've got the recorded declaration, they've provided their financial assurance, they've done almost all of the work. So really that'll be closed out here shortly. The other one, which is the ditch that was cut adjacent to the wetland, effectively draining it. Because we are not the WAC authority, we can't go to the DNR and have them issue a cease and desist and restoration order. And since we want to align those, right now we are working with the city to work with the DNR to issue the CDO so that we can then align our restoration and their restoration together. He is not doing any more work. That's the
Right.
good news, but yeah.
it's moving at the pace of coordinating all those people?
Yes, and he lives out of town. too. He is not an area resident.
Fine person. I like it when you put stuff in bolds for the new stuff. Because a lot of it, we want to keep that same continuity.
Right.
But it's nice to see that. I had one question
Okay,
about,
go ahead.
this is a Zach question. Okay, so they're moving to it's hydro something geo. I thought you would know with wetlands.
Oh, for the well, yeah.
Hydrogeomorphic.
Yeah.
Is that,
So the-
is that a big lift for us or change or? what
Not
you're doing?
really. It's just we had to sort of categorize wetlands and areas a little bit differently because what that means is we're looking at topography and placement of the wetland in the landscape, and then also how is the water moving through that wetland. So we're actually going to be kind of looking at a little bit more detail at some things, which is not a bad thing, I don't think. And that kind of plays nicely along with the monitoring wells that we're looking at then too. Depending on where we have those in the district, we might be able to glean some of that information to get some real specific data on like the hydrology of nearby wetlands or if we have any in wetlands and stuff. But
Okay, no, that's good. I want to keep having you educate me because I love to be able to say, we're doing more. But I mean, I think it's a good statement for other watershed districts or other people that do have water authority to know we're stepping up and asking for better accountability for our wetlands. So what you're doing is important.
Thank you, Zach. Okay, any other questions on the May staff report? Hearing none. We're on to the May engineers report. Any questions? Anything you'd like to say, Mr. Sobier?
I have nothing new to add.
Okay. Alrighty. Alrighty, then we'll
One comment.
go ahead.
If Marilyn were here, she'd be wanting to ask this, but okay, so D about the holistic lake management plans. And we probably asked this before, but we're going to include uplands as part of that holistic approach, right?
correct.
Okay, just want to underscore that. That's all.
It's the whole watershed, right?
It's the whole lot.
The sub watershed for that lake.
So we're, President Pedersen, managers, that's one of the exercises we've been doing as a staff is trying to come up with a name that actually encapsulates what it is that's being done. The whole lake management plan doesn't quite get it, so. because these-
Holistic
Yeah.
is a good word though.
So
Okay,
we want to, yeah, so it's the entire contributing watershed
okay, thank you.
and the lake.
May regulatory report. Any questions? Okay, hearing none. Receive legal report. Mr. Smith.
Madam President, managers, just one brief item. In the workshop, there was a question about mileage reimbursement for managers attending meetings. And the bylaws that have been adopted in the governance manual only speak to per diems, but both the statute and your public purposes expenditure policy specifically authorize travel reimbursement for managers for any performance of their official duties, including attending meetings. So managers are authorized to be reimbursed for mileage. You don't have to be, but I wanted to clear that up.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody have any other questions of Mr. Smith until we get into the closed session at the end of the meeting? Okay, hearing none. Manager reports. Does anybody have a manager report?
Comments?
Okay,
Couple comments.
okay.
Go ahead.
So just a couple quick comments. We've got the draft information from our auditors, Abdu, yesterday afternoon. And I've just started to go through it and probably nobody else has looked at it either, but just a couple quick comments. Basically, it's going to be a clean audit. No difficulty in putting the audit together. The only item on there that appears to be flagged is the same thing we had last year. And I'll mention it to Mr. Smith. They've flagged the notion that we had 5 invoices out of 25 sampled that were paid after the 35-day requirement. And they even reference our change of our bylaws to make it be 60 days. So as to why they would reference the fact that we're aware of it and due to all of our conflicting cutoff dates, that this is the way we do it. And we changed our bylaws, but yet they still flagged it. They flagged it as a not in accordance with
Statute.
one of the statutes, the Minnesota statutes regarding. So anyway, it's a minor issue. It was a minor issue last year. It's minor this year, but it's in the report. And we'll talk more about it probably at our next meeting.
Thank you, Tom. Anything else?
I was gonna just, so I had a few meetings, so I did meet with Leslie Yutka and Tom joined me. He was trying to get support for his reappointment at the same time, kind of. But I just wanted to know what some of their priorities were, and it was really neat to learn what emphasis they're putting on more trees and more, so making their landscape more resilient, but the buffers, they have pretty good, strong buffer
Requirements?
activity. But the tree thing was, they've got limits on how many trees can actually be taken out of a particular development. And I thought that was pretty neat. So that's why I was hoping we could kind of look at that and line it up. But if at least one of our cities is already doing this, can't we include that in what we're trying to do? And they'd be a precedent anyway. So,
Curious, talk to her, did you say it was by stem count, by basal area? Or?
I think it's probably a percentage, but it wasn't, you cannot take all the trees out for sure. So I can't remember exactly what she said in terms of percentage or how they figured that out, but I just thought that was, we've seen this concern so many times. And so I thought that was really good. I met with a couple people from Met Council. I serve on the Great Stuff Cities Steering Committee and with Pete Lindstrom, and he's on the Met Council or part of that. So I said, well, introduce me. I want to meet the tribal liaison person. And then this Eric Wachik is also, he was water resources, and I was asking what they were doing with groundwater. So he also flagged somebody else that hopefully in future conversations, but we're going to keep meeting and keep talking. But I just wanted to learn more about what Met Council is doing in terms of water stuff. So especially groundwater. Went to a Three Rivers event, park event, and as a part of my Bush Lake chapter, but they've got a ton of turf grass. Now it's not on ours necessarily, but I met Robert, and it's like Engholm, and he's the maintenance person for that park. And so I was asking him about more native plants and reducing the amount of turf grass. And he said, well, that's probably a good idea. So I gave him information on the soil health school that's going to be going on in July, and he seemed interested. I sent him information. And then the Washington groundwater, county groundwater plan, I thought was really amazing. So that was just the other day. But they did a really good job of linking public health and natural resources and groundwater protection. And I love the way it was laid out. So it might be something to look at in terms of how we might want to lay something out, but just to see how much emphasis is going on. Now in that particular county, they've got like 6 or 7 watershed districts. So it was really robust because those people were already involved in doing a lot of stuff. But groundwater and then the health department's gotten really much more involved, that state agency on groundwater. So they were making comments and they were very appreciative of that emphasis on groundwater in the plan. Met Council was really tracking some of that, paying attention. So it's on people's radar. So I guess that's why I bring it up. It's like we don't really have much of anything on groundwater in our plan, our current plan. So I think this is really a priority, and it's, I don't know in terms of climate action plans statewide, but they had the state water policy. They always seem to silo surface water and groundwater, but more people are seeing that. And we've got that survey that Evan Christensen did on the interaction. So it's just becoming more and more important. And so I wanted to just mention that. I think that's a place we need to put some emphasis. That's it.
Thank you, Joe. Do you have anything?
Nope.
I have a couple of things, which, one is, you were talking about going to all the cities with the, change to the 10-year plan. And I think, each one of us who sort of represents a city should go with you when you make that presentation to them, because I think it's really good that they see the representative that they have here on the board as well. So I'm suggesting that. And then also, I was gonna say, golly, oh, yes. The, last month, we talked about the, Todd Harrington coming in and talking about soil health. And I sent him something off, and being in landscape, of course, Todd did not get back to me until last Friday. So you can see how busy he's been. And his response was, I'm really, really busy. And if you want to talk to me, you have to pay me. And then I said to him, well, how about if I have Terry call you and let's just discuss how we'd want to do this? Because he's got the presentation. I think it's just a matter of getting the presentation from him and us being able to utilize it. It's just a landscape thing. I'm so sorry that that's sort of the time I contacted him. But have you heard anything more? Have you reached out to him anymore?
I have
since then?
not had a chance.
Yeah, it's
That was
since
just,
last Friday, so it's not like it happened like, about 2 weeks ago or something. So that's all I wanted to add. Okay, now we're on to the consent agenda. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 items on here. I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda as written.
I'll second.
Thank you. Do we have any questions or comments or anything about any of this? I would assume this would already have come up if we did. All right. Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the consent agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Now we're on to new business. We didn't have anything removed from the consent agenda, so next we are at accepting the April treasurer's report and approving payment of the bills.
I move that we accept the treasurer's report and approve the payment of the bills.
Okay.
So I'll second, but I have a question. When I looked through the agenda, there was no link to actually see the treasurer's report.
Oh, I saw it.
so there was,
Yeah.
you probably hit it at the very time that, so Manager DeVell asked for something to be swapped out. So Staff Monahan was swapping out
Okay.
2 documents, and it may have been at that time that it happened. That's the only thing I can think of, because
Because I didn't go back multiple times or anything. It wasn't there.
Yeah, I sort of read through everything yesterday, like late in the day or something. So it was there by yesterday, late in the day. So
So this was earlier, early in the weekend.
oh, okay.
Right, and it was there when I looked early
Yeah.
in the weekend.
I updated it on Monday. It's not there.
okay.
That's how I missed it. Okay.
Interesting.
All righty. So now, do you have
I
any?
seconded already, so.
Thank you. So all those who are in favor of adopting resolution 25-036, accepting the April treasurer's report and approving payment of the bills, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. None opposed. Next, we're on to the Sunram change order number 3.
Pedersen managers. So this is a change order for the Pioneer Wetland Restoration Project. The Pioneer Wetland Restoration Project is about 8 acres of wetland restoration on 3 properties on Pioneer Road that the district acquired. Removed the houses because they were all within the floodplain of the wetland. It is adjoining a much larger wetland. That wetland has significant populations of reed canary grass and hybrid cattail. The restoration is coming along very nicely. We are getting good establishment of native plants. We're getting the different communities we're looking for, but there is still areas of an encroachment. So I asked Heather Lau from BAR to reach out to Sunram to see what the cost would be for 3 additional years of maintenance on that site, which is quite common for, especially for wetland restorations. 5 years, what Bowser has as a minimum for a restoration period. So that's the change order that's before you tonight. The current contract runs through July of this year, so this contract will be for the remainder of the 2025 year through 2028. At which time I am hoping that we'll be able to have like our master water stewards or other volunteer groups take over the maintenance at that time.
Okay, looks like I'm looking for a motion to accept this.
I'll move.
I'll second.
Okay, great. Any other questions?
I think this is really important because we've gone to all this effort to stay on top of it. So this is crucial.
I think going to a longer maintenance period, I mean, I can't tell you how many sites I've gone to that I've put in myself and gone back, and in 2-3 years' time, they just didn't have the money and didn't care. And now the whole project is like toast. And to try to figure out what to do with it, do you completely bomb the whole thing and start all over again, or do you try to kill off what you've got? And so I'm very much in favor of this too. It's a really good thing. So all those in favor of approving Sunram change order number 3, please say aye. Aye. None opposed. Next, Minnesota watershed resolutions. David, I believe this was you.
So there were, you should have all received an email from,
Dan
Yeah.
Boy. Yeah.
but there were 4 that I saw. The first one was the DNR and the Pollution Control Agency permit standards. And Scott could tell us, we've got multiple rules where we have to say that the permit is complete within a certain amount of time and other things, otherwise it gets passed through. And they apparently managed to not have any of those. And in one case, the watershed district has spent $800,000 on a project that is still in limbo. So, yeah, and it's not doing the project, it's just planning and so forth and providing information, additional information. So, I guess the bottom line on all of these is kind of, they're looking for any comments that we might have, where it might apply to us or where we think the wording could be improved, that type of thing. And some of them, like this problem, I don't know if we have any, we might not, but we need to get them to, according to Jan's letter, we need to get them to Terry so he can summarize them and send them to her. So the next one was.
Oh, I have a comment on all these, the DNR permit ones. They're similar to the MPCA permits. They went through the same legislative process to make the MPCA while I worked there. Issue the permits, give you deadlines, make things happen if something else didn't happen, and it's got rid of all the collaborative work that got things returned because we had no choice, had a lot of negative consequences for the permittees. So it's not as simple of a process. You can get a complete application, but it can be totally incorrect and not have a lot of the information you need. So you do a completeness review, which means you have submitted a plan, but it could mean the plan is garbage. So it sounds good, but it also, I'm not sure that that's really will get them what they want.
Well, I think that what they want is to be able to work together so that we can come up
Right,
with
and this
something
will-
that's
This
workable
can get
for
rid of the
everybody.
collaborative ability that is there.
In their view, it's been just
No
delay.
Well,
But that's, it's only their view. It's not.
correct. So I'm just gonna say it's a complicated issue. If you just read it without context, it might.
Well, if you take a look at it and have some good insights, they'd like to get past the pointing fingers and move on to
Yeah.
getting something done to the point where if the project is not feasible for whatever reason, they'd like to know early, not, continually get asked questions
That's
every
the,
year.
they don't want to invest the money in something that
I
down the road,
understand.
they're.
I
gonna-
understand very
Yeah.
well. I had multiple year projects that was multi-million dollars with the ethanol facilities. And if the modeling didn't pass and they didn't do the modeling till the end, then you can't give them a clear answer. So there's a lot of it in here. They talked about only having their design 10 to 20% ready, but getting confidence that this can go forward. So
But I mean,
that's
we
the
do
problem
the
is it's
same
not
thing. We don't finish our design before we.
submit the applications because of the timelines. So
I think it's more just information, don't you
Didn't
think?
the director of the DNR, didn't she speak at the legislative
Commissioner?
group? And she spoke just to this issue at the
Correct.
meeting before meeting with the legislators. She spoke and she was very apologetic and was making it sound like they were going to do everything they could to try and coordinate this.
Improve
So-
the process.
Pardon?
Improve the process.
Improve the process. So part of the issue is everybody's operating on different schedules and they have slightly different requirements. So it's a combination. Again, I think it comes down to it's problematic for everything that we do to try and coordinate with everybody that we interface with. So we might not have the exact same schedules, but if we can figure out ways to connect the dots between the different agencies, then something like this would be minimized and maybe eliminated. And the other thing is that some of the outlying areas, they aren't the big sophisticated corporate players. So I'm not saying that the ethanol or the plants, aren't important. But they have big budgets and they have ways to deal with this. But some of these outlying areas, they don't necessarily have to do it. And the way I heard that one described is the permitting schedule was off. The schedule was off for the time period that it had to be done weather-wise and a couple of other requirements. So it was like, it either had to work this way or it wasn't going to work, and it didn't work that way. And so this community is out a lot of money, and it's a bigger deal for somebody like that, I think, than a big oil company or something.
I'll speak to a few things here. And none of it is really my opinion, just some things for all of you to consider in this. So what our rules are, or what we are obligated to do under statute, is we have 15 business days from the time an application is submitted to tell them if it's a complete application or not. If it's incomplete, we need to tell them why it's incomplete. And we have 60 days from that, not business, just 60 days to make it a decision. We personally, with the exception of the Army Corps of Engineers on one project, we have not encountered issues with the DNR in being able to get things to. We tend to have a completed plan that we submit to them, and then they can respond to a completed plan. If we were to submit a 30% plan, we wouldn't review a 30% plan. We're just like, what? We don't know what this is. So I have not encountered these problems that they are talking about. Now, that does not mean that it doesn't exist. It doesn't mean that sometimes we get frustrated by the DNR or by other organizations, but I'm sure other organizations get frustrated by us too.
So there's kind of two things. So the one is, can we help improve it? The other is, do we support it or not support it? So I don't know if you're saying we shouldn't support this. And if not, then at some point we'll have to make a decision on how we're going to vote.
I don't believe I have enough information
Yeah,
to
I
say this would be something I would support. From my experience, I would not support it in a general way. I do not know the specifics of what happened in this one project.
Well, the PCA signed off on part of it. and then
Very
the DNR
different
didn't,
scope.
So they got caught in
Yeah.
a mess. But I think part of this is people just want clear communication, and you do that every time. It's like, we're not going to do something because this is incomplete. And I think that's the frustration I'm hearing is we're not getting anything back. It's just delay without
And that's,
the good information as to, okay, what action should we be taking or what are possible paths forward?
I do agree that there is not the same prescriptive guidelines that
mhm.
other agencies need to follow that we do. And that to me seems out of sync with how it should be.
We put
I-
ours forward.
Well, I also really am concerned about going forward in an adversarial way, though, with another organization saying, you got to do this and you got to change that rather than. So I don't know, take it for what it's worth. I see the issue, especially Tim Kelly's, in conversation with him, he has done a number of projects successfully. He's good at what he does. So I tend to take that as a sign that there's an issue there somewhere.
I guess I really feel like because we don't have this issue, it's very hard for me to comment one way or the other.
Mhm.
I'm kind of neutral on it because
Sure.
this never happened. How do you vote one way or the other when?
Could we suggest a process Scott uses? That there's at least communication as to why they're delaying or what the need is
So,
for some clarification as part of the review.
Here are the suggestions I would make, just given that I think Jan and company would like comments sooner rather than later. In fact, I think they wanted them already.
Right.
Most were 5 days. That if you have things just with the way the resolution is written, this doesn't make sense. What are you saying here? Clarity type things. Get those to me. I'll get them to Jan. August 15th, or when is the
19th or
19th?
something.
They're voting on them. So I think at our July meeting,
You'll bring
that's
that back
when
to us.
the board should say,
Okay.
here is how we would like our delegate to vote on that bill. That's my suggestion to the.
Okay,
managers.
I agree with that. Does everybody agree?
Yes.
Okay.
I want to hear what Scott thinks.
Scott's like, don't put me in there.
Managers, what I can tell you from my experience in the district, we have not run into this. Larger issue at Bar, we have experienced this challenge. And it's about, what it boils down to, it's about communication. The more communication you can have, the better off it is. There are times where projects get submitted at an early design phase, 10, 15, 20, 30%. And at that point, we're typically looking for just general high-level feedback. We're not looking for approvals because it's not reasonable to approve something at a 30%. That doesn't come till you get to that 90, 95% mark where it's pretty set in stone that things aren't going to change. So from that perspective, I think it is a slippery slope if you start to put in deadlines, like you have X number of days. Speaking from personal experience working with FEMA, they will review your permit. They have 180 days to review your permit. Usually on day 179, you get something back
Yeah.
that says you are incomplete because you didn't have X, Y, and Z.
Mhm.
And that, well, it comes back to the communication piece. That's all it would take is an early, something a little bit sooner. Hey,
178.
you didn't check this box.
Yeah.
You don't have to review everything to know if you check a box or not. And that's something that we try to do at the district is before our 15 days expire, well before, is say, hey, you're missing your models. Can you send those over? I don't know if that helps.
Well, I just-
Confuses the matter more.
The other caution about setting deadlines is if you are a Department of One and you're in Cochiching County and you're trying to review plans and you have this deadline coming up and your alternates are to let it be approved de facto or deny it. You're going to deny it. That's where you're going to go because you don't want. So I think you almost end up creating more difficulties for the applicant that way, because that they're up against a wall. They don't know what else to do, so.
Well, one of them talked about delays, and that's why I thought the communication.
Okay, well, we'll just rely on you to bring this back to us again in July with the actual resolutions.
Yeah, so in July, yeah, what we'll be looking for is just for the managers as a whole to vote on how they would like the delegate to vote on each one. But if you have comments specific to the resolution that you would like Minnesota Watersheds to have to give back to the resolution authors, please let me know
Send
that.
them to you.
She said by the 13th, I believe, something like that. It was,
They,
10 days.
they wanted the comments, Louis, do you remember? It was like a quick turnaround, like it was
June 1st
most,
or something.
most watersheds were not gonna meet in the.
Yeah, it was
I think it's
10
10
days
days.
to
10
review
days.
and it's,
10 days.
Yeah.
we don't meet that often.
Do you remember when it was, Louis, that Jan had asked for?
Yeah, it was 10 days from the date she sent it.
Not a lot.
Yeah, and
I
that
think it was June 3rd, so by the 13th, something like that.
So, if you have comments, please give them to me and I will send them along to her.
So
Okay.
that's kind of the bottom line. What I wanted to get in is to have some kind of a action. If you have anything, make sure he gets it with time, because he's got to still look at it. And, you know, if there's two that conflict, I don't know.
so I'm assuming that you will, that we're only doing ones for clarification or on not any opinions about the.
Correct.
Yes.
Imagine there'll be some discussion at Mala or
Oh, yeah.
whatever's coming up, so.
So the
Okay.
other ones were to amend 103G.2241 and Rule 8420.0420 to expand WACA exemption, if I understand it, so that if the wetland was less than 25 years old, that they were exempt from needing to do something. I don't know that I totally understood it.
It's probably
I-
the Red River Valley.
Yeah, I can tell you where I stand on this one very clearly. I am opposed to it,
Yeah.
strongly opposed to it.
Basically, they can tear up things that have been in place for 50 years then and,
It's asking for whack.
25.
25 years.
no, but I think if something.
It's asking for whack and not
Oh,
apply
yeah.
to them. It's really what it's asking.
They wanted to
for.
be exempt.
Okay.
Okay, the next one was, there's a watershed management organization that wants to partner in on some projects, but because they're a water management organization and not a watershed district, then apparently Minnesota statute 383B.79, they're not listed as one of the organizations that can partner. And
And in this case, I'm looking to our legal counsel who knows a lot more about statute and organizations than I do.
So I need to pull that resolution up as we're talking about it, but that's one I can look at and share comments later.
Okay. And then the last one was on Fens. And I know that was a huge deal with one watershed. And the way I understand a fen, it's like an underground wetland. So how do you know it's there? And that's their problem is they're getting their project denied because they can't prove it's not there.
So they, in the new WACA stuff that's coming out, they have defined what calcareous fen is. So I'm hoping,
That might
and
help.
DNR is supposedly, there's stuff in that that they're supposed to be stepping up to do some enforcement. So I'm hoping that they got the message and at least we're trying to provide a little bit more uniform clarification on what it is, at least so people can make a judgment.
All right, so I guess we'll just be looking for July for you to come back to us. If you have any other comments, please send them to Terry.
Yeah.
All right.
That's all I.
Madam
Yes.
President, just to back on the one, it's the Bassett Creek Water Management Organization that wants to be allowed by statute to participate in a Hennepin County multi-jurisdictional program is one that watershed districts are allowed to participate in. And frankly, I don't think there have been very many examples of it, but they want to amend the statute so that their water management organization can have the same status as a watershed district for purposes of that program. It doesn't have any bearing on our, watershed. And I'm surprised to hear that someone's wanting to revive that Hennepin County statute, but that's my quick comment. We can look at it a little bit further and communicate with Terry and you all later.
Okay, thank
So
you.
it wouldn't have any adverse effect on us as far as I could see.
No.
No.
I think a broader issue is got one watershed, one plan, and they're bringing everybody and their brother together. So in that context,
Does it have to do with water? Yeah, that was gonna be my question. Is watershed-based implementation funding implicated in this? Are they not able to get that?
I don't think this is how that is passed on. I don't think that's the issue. The other way to think about it is they could just go ahead and become a watershed district and solve their problem that way.
I thought of that too.
Okay, we have moved item 8, discussion items, to the end of the meeting. So as you can see, the upcoming board topics already listed there for you, and the events, which would be Creek Week coming up, which is going to be a big deal for us. The summer tour, which we've already discussed, and the Minnesota Water Resources Conference in October. So that leaves us to the discussion items, which I believe we need to go into closed session for. Yes?
First we have item 8A, which is just the per diem processing discussion.
Okay.
And I spoke too briefly about earlier, managers, and that is, we were having some issues with APS, which actually largely seem to be resolved. They have Tara Kovac in place now. They went through 3 staff over the course of a little less than a year, but Tara's been there. She seems to be on top of everything and responsive to my questions, so it's been nice working. But we were originally going to move to Redpath. Well, Redpath has been very non-responsive with the new program. So I'm now, if we're not even there yet and they're this non-responsive, I really would hate to be stuck there, especially since we're going to be going out for RFQs for accounting services. And I've heard some managers say that perhaps Redpath isn't where we need to be for this. So I would suggest we stay with APS. The other thing that I would like to put forward, and this would require changing in the governance manual because of the way per diems are supposed to be processed, but something for the managers to consider. That's why I didn't put it on an action item. I want you to know if you want me to even bring it back for something like that, would be that I have minutes for every meeting. I attend every meeting. I know the meetings managers are at. I have access to the payroll because that's what I do, review all of the staff. So I could enter your per diem for prep and meeting on the days that they occur. And then process it with the rest of payroll like I do now. I could then generate a report for you out of the APS system and send that to you for your records to confirm that, in fact, I did capture we were there. The one caveat would be, though, that all managers' expenses, meals and mileage, that would have to just be submitted like a normal claim, like an invoice, something else. You could do it annually, you could do it quarterly, you could do whatever, but so that would just be handled like we do with any other paying of the bills. That's just a suggestion for the managers to consider. Again, I'm not looking for any action on this. If you have questions about how it work or, please.
So I do have one question for where we're authorized to go to other events like the legislative days or something. Would we just send you a note on that or something? We'd be authorizing the different people to go at a meeting, but just having them authorized to go doesn't always mean they ended up going.
So what I would say, I thought about that, what I would suggest is, when I register you, more often than not, I do the registration, then I know that I registered Manager Ziegler to go to the legislative. I think the only time you would need to email me, it would be, if it was something like, I think some of you registered yourself for the summer tour.
I did.
I do
Yeah.
too.
So I wouldn't know that. Those would be the things that,
Well, you said go ahead and do your.
yeah, no, that's, we decided it would be easier because we were all over the place of who was going where. So that's the only time I would need an email. And I think that's why I would be sending the reports, because so then you can look at, oh, well, wait a minute, I went on the summer tour, and then we could retroactively do it if it was forgotten.
Plus, we'd need to submit receipts for hotels. if we
Yeah,
did
so,
some.
and everything else, we would just handle like paying of the bills. Just, here's the mileage, here's the, so.
You have any?
I have a couple comments on it. One is, in general, I like the idea a lot. And what we're trying to do is to cut down all the idiosyncrasies we all have. In the past, we spent all year last year working about per diems, and then there's all the record keeping. So all the record keeping on the watershed side says nothing to do with our individual record keeping. So if somebody waits too long and they send it in, they miss one, or they send in, they couldn't remember if they did it right, then it's triggering Terry to review the same thing on his end. If you're sending in 3 months worth or a month worth or 6 months, so I see relying on your bookkeeping to know that it's accurate. So the underlying thing is that for the most part, our minutes document the ultimate authorization for the payment. So that's the big issue that's out of the way. So it's primarily a matter of what is the easiest system to do. And I think based on my own experience, the way Terry is talking about it, him inputting it makes the most sense. And if he does it at the same time it goes with the normal payroll process, then it's all part of the process. He's got to review time cards. He's got to review the per diems. And if he's got something out there that says, well, all the managers were there and this is what they get, a prep
Up at a meeting.
and a meeting, and it's there, and he's done it, and he's done it all. He's got it there. The only question I have with your system is the documentation after the fact is fine, but you shouldn't necessarily be the one that's triggering the payment for a third party, us. So in the case of other employees, they fill their time cards out and you review them. And in this case, if you're checking us all off and one person was missing, or for whatever reason it wasn't, you're the one, or somebody else is gone and you're triggering a payment that we don't catch in the system. So what I'm saying is most other bills are triggered by an outside source. An invoice comes in, that triggers a payment. It isn't you, because you send the same payment every month, doesn't mean you automatically send a payment for the phone service if they don't send you an invoice. So I'm just talking about that documentation part of it and who triggers it.
Well, this
from
might,
an audit trail kind of
might
perspective.
be semantics, but I think you already answered it earlier when you said the minutes. We have
Mhm.
minutes
That's
that,
what I was,
We just need to do the mileage or whatever the expense.
No, it does. And so then it's a question of how far back into the records anybody goes to look at what triggered an expense. So that's the only issue there. It's ultimately there. That is the authorization. That's why we go through every month to have the board sign off.
our auditors never have requested to see anybody's per diem request, which I find interesting. It's never been requested.
So it's maybe
Yeah,
we've maybe killed this subject over too many times over the last year. That's the way I kind of feel. But there's got to be
I mean,
I
I
think-
could even, before I finalize it, I could generate the report before finalizing it too and send it and say, do you agree with it? you confirm.
So ideally, you have all that in front of you, so you're looking at everybody's, you're not looking at
Right.
5 of us coming in on independent times and over independent periods, so it makes it easier for you to do it.
Here is the one of the biggest reasons why I would like to do it. So if every 2 weeks I finalize, or on the 15th and the 30th or the 31st, I finalize payroll. Once it's finalized, it's gone. So if you submit something out that is for that pay period, but outside of it, I just put it on a random Sunday. So I don't have any way to go back in and say, yep, here are the dates that these per diems were for. I can just go back and say, I gave you 12 per diem. So the other reason I would like to do it this way, because then I have a record.
Do you have a comment at all on this? Are you?
Well, I did have a question. I think that he's answered another question I had, was whether it'll be monthly or twice a month.
Twice a month,
Yeah, twice a month, but you would, so
depending on when it falls.
that then it becomes the next question for you. Do you want to do direct deposit or do you want a check issued?
Direct deposit.
Direct
What are we doing? I
Right.
can't stand, here's your check. People steal stuff from your phone, from your mailbox now all the time.
So then it'd be twice a month.
I think
Just be rolling in the dough then.
Oh.
well, just how much certainty there is in our budget and actuals. Now
Yes.
you've already got it out.
Working your way up to minimum wage.
Yeah. Yeah,
And the
okay, so
expenses
I'm in
part, I
favor of
think
him doing it and we submit our own expenses. You are too, you are too.
Yeah.
You are, we're all in favor of it, so just go that way. All right, so that's that. Next. Now we need to go into closed session.
Madam President,
Yes, sir.
I would recommend that the Board of Managers adopt a motion to go into closed session for the purpose of receiving confidential legal advice concerning litigation strategy in 2 lawsuits. The first is Larry Cook versus the Riley Purgatory Bluff Creek Watershed District and Terry Jeffrey. This concerns the Spring Road Conservation Project. And the second lawsuit, Larry Cook versus Hennepin County, Carver County, Riley Purgatory Bluff Creek Watershed District, Bonnie Nelson and Jill Crafton. This concerns the appointment process by Carver County and Hennepin.
So moved.
So moved.
I'll second.
Second, all those in favor of going to closed session, please say aye. Aye. None opposed. Okay, into closed session we go. All righty, we are back in open session, and at this point, we're at the portion of the meeting where we get to adjourn, but I'll look for a motion for that.
I move.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor of adjourning, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. We are adjourned at 8:19.